Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've been well. Today we're going to be talking about the long-awaited, for me anyway, compact weapon light from Streamlight, the TLR-7. Here it is on a Glock 19. You can see it fits nice and flush. In this video, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'm not talking about the design of the light. Though I did think it was ugly when it first came out, it has grown on me a ton. Now I actually really like it. Much like when the MRO first came out, I thought that was one of the ugliest optics, and now it is really one of my favorite looking optics. I'll try and get back here behind it so you can see the full outline of this light. And I'm gonna keep talking, but I'm gonna put this light on some other guns and kind of roll in the clip overlays on top of what I'm saying. First and foremost, let's get the main thing out of the way. It has retained the ugly silver Streamlight ring. Unfortunately, I wish they would ditch it, though I'm told it's a copyright thing so that Streamlight can go after any other companies that try and counterfeit their light. Though I really wish Streamlight would just give up that silver ring option. Let's go ahead and get into some specs. Let's start off with lumens 500, which is really great. It is the most lumens of any of these compact lights that we're going to be comparing it to, though it does fall short of things like the TLR-1 HL and the X300U or the XH35, but 500 lumens, pretty respectable for a small light. Does have 4300 candela, which again, doesn't really compare to the 15,000-ish, I believe, of a TLR-1 HL, though compared to all the other compact weapon lights is pretty impressive. That equates to 131 meter beam distance. It does have 1.5 hours of runtime from a CR123 battery, so that is really nice for those of you that don't like the CR2s or don't want to use a AAA. This does use the widely used CR123 that's used in pretty much every tactical light out there. It's IPX7 rated, which means it's waterproof to 1 meter for 30 minutes. What you may not hear about is that it is assembled in the US with mostly US parts, though I believe the LED comes from somewhere else. I do like the fact that it is at least assembled here and largely made in the US. It does have a $215 MSRP, which is on the high end for a Streamlight product, though that's the MSRP, and I'm guessing it's going to come in much closer to $150. Though that is just a guess. Maybe when it comes out, it'll be closer to $215, but I'm sure it'll drop down. And from what I have been told, it has a rumored release date of February sometime is when it's gonna start shipping. It is pretty short, it is pretty fat, though, as you can see, it is not very thick in this dimension. It is basically the width of a Glock slide, which is nice for concealed carry. So the size of it, you can see, is very flush on a Glock 19. I'll take it off here and compare it to some other lights, though it will be a little misleading because this light does not extend past the edge of the trigger guard at all. So it will appear even shorter than it actually is, though it is quite short. So here it is on a Glock 19, and you can see basically doesn't come out all the way to the barrel. It's just shorter than the slide, basically. Compare that to another very small light, the XC1, which is just a tad bit longer, and the XC1B or any with the updated battery cap will be even just a little bit longer than that. The XC1B I am planning on reviewing here coming soon. There are some nice upgrades to that light, though I don't have it yet, so stay tuned for that in the future. And then we have the APLc here, which also is a little bit longer than the TLR-7. And then we have the Olight PL-Mini, which is also gaining in popularity. This small light, nice and short. This one and the TLR-7, to my eye, look to be about the shortest in terms of how far they extend up towards just shy of the muzzle. Now, there is another area where width and height, I guess, of the light come into play. The XC1 and the PL-Mini are gonna be your shortest, so they're gonna, in terms of this dimension here, they're gonna be the shortest, followed by the APLc, and the TLR-7 is gonna be the tallest of the bunch there. The width, really for all intents and purposes of all of these lights, is gonna be pretty much identical, aside from the PL-Mini, which unfortunately has this quick detach lever that makes it a little bit wider than the rest of the bunch. the effective width, I guess we can call it. So since these lights are all different sizes, all different shapes, they don't really fit into the same holsters. That's gonna be a question that's gonna be asked. Will this fit into my APLc holster? Will this fit into my APL holster? Will it fit into my XC1 holster? Yada, yada, yada. The answer is if you have a custom fit holster, probably, most likely, 99% chance, no, it will not fit. The TLR7 is gonna be the heaviest of the bunch. It is the biggest, it's the most robust, I would say. This and the XC1 probably will be the most durable, but I haven't done a ton of durability testing. Well, I've done 0 durability testing on the TLR7, but my gut tells me it's probably the most durable of the bunch. It just feels robust, aluminum all around. The mounting mechanism seems pretty robust. This back part right here is kind of a rubbery part, though this will never really make contact with the ground. So having this rubbery, I'm not really sure, maybe just to aid in, you know, maybe it hits here with recoil or something on some guns. I don't really know why they made this rubber, but it is. Real quick, here it is to an APLc. Like I said, it appears quite a bit shorter, though that is because the APLc does have these paddles that extend into the trigger guard area. Here it is next to an XC1, which again will appear longer, though again it's because it has these paddles that extend out. So size is comparable in a lot of areas. It's about the same width, which is important, and about the same length, which is important. And it's a little bit taller, which does come into play a little bit, but not significantly. Really only comes into play with a concealed carry holster. And I guess we can compare it. What the heck? I don't know why people compare these lights. It's a compact weapon light versus a full-size weapon light. That's like comparing a Glock 43 with a Glock 34. I don't really understand why people want the comparison, but here it is if you're wondering. The TLR1 still best bang for your buck if you're looking for just raw power, and really at any price, still raw power lumen candela. This is the beast that you're gonna want, though it is a beast. We have the X300 also, which is comparably obnoxiously larger than the TLR7, though again, a great full-size light if you feel like carrying that, or you know, if it's on your belt on a duty holster or something like that. Then we even have, this is the Gen 4 400 lumen regular APL, which is significantly larger than the TLR7. Real quick, we'll talk about the battery and the compartment, I guess. It is a front loading, so you untwist this bezel. This bezel does have these little markers here on the side, which that dictates, that shows, I guess, when it's here, it's on. When you unscrew it, and there's a little detent, you can't hear it, but when you unscrew it past the detent, it no longer turns on. Keep on unscrewing it, and you have your battery, which is a CR123 battery compartment. Really a marvelous piece of engineering, this light, though really I think every flashlight is kind of an engineering marvel. The front is fairly shallow, though the larger bezel, this is going to be the largest bezel of all your little compact lights, does allow it to have a little bit more throw than most of the rest. All these guns have been cleared beforehand, so don't freak out too much. But battery just loads right back in there, nice and easy. I like that. Some people, a lot of people maybe, don't really like the battery mechanism on the TLR1, and they don't really like the battery mechanism on the X300 either. I am also a fan of these, just screw and unscrew the bezel. It's easy, it's simple, and it works. Mounting with pretty much all Streamlights, my favorite. Similar to the TLR1, where you have this spring and captured bolt mechanism where you can have it taken all the way off and you can pop it right on there and then screw it down. Very easy to mount. TLR7 has a similar mechanism where it is a captured bolt with a little spring here. So same way, you come in here, lock it right on, and then screw this down. This screw can be operated with a coin or with a, oh yeah, here's one. With a shell casing. Here's just a 9mm, so you can get in there and screw it. It is kind of ridged, knurled, so you can operate a lot of the screw pretty much the whole way up until just about the end with your thumb. It's nice though to be aware, I don't know if you'll be able to tell in the video, it is flush with the side, though this top little edge here kind of protrudes. And it's kind of nice because you can get your thumb on there, though holster makers are gonna need to make sure that they block this area out. Otherwise, putting it in and out of your holster could work this screw loose. So the mounting mechanism, I love it. Definitely my favorite of all of these compact lights. The only other light that really compares to it in terms of mounting and how much I like it is its big brother, the TLR-1. Let's go ahead and breeze through some beam patterns here. So that back wall there with the windows that need to be cleaned because Atreyu's nose is always up on them, that's about 11 yards. And this closer wall here with the speaker up against it is about 7 yards. So this is just to give you an idea of what the beam looks like, the color temperature, how bright the hot spot is, how good the spill is. So if I go over here to the left, you can see that the spill of this is really still pretty good on the right. This is the 500 lumen TLR-7. Here's the 200 lumen APLc. Still has a pretty good hot spot, though the spill, as you can see, has a sharper cutoff there on the right edge. Spill's not quite as good. TLR7, once again. Here's the Surefire XC1. This is not the B, this is the 200 lumen original. So good spill, no good hot spot, though the spill isn't even that good. You see I'm pointing at this left edge right here. There's not a whole lot of spill on that right edge. Versus again, the TLR7, see how bright that right edge is. Now we have the 400 lumen Olight PL-Mini. This one does a really good job of illuminating too. Has a pretty strong hot spot and still has pretty good spill. Spill of that still not as strong as the TLR7 though. Now, because people will ask for it to be compared, even though I don't think it really should be compared, is the TLR-1 HL. This one is 800 lumens, incredible hot spot, and still really good spill. You can see how bright we have over on the right edge there. And then the TLR7 to finish us off. Really happy with the light output. Okay, so everything I've talked about this light so far, I really, really love. I would say up until this point, everything we've discussed makes this the number one, the best by a long shot in some cases, by not as big of a margin in other cases, but overall the best compact weapon light that's out there in my personal opinion, up until the controls, unfortunately, which is a pretty important thing. Now, I'm not saying the controls are garbage, I'm not saying the controls kill this light, but I'm saying I like the controls of pretty much every other weapon light more than I like the controls of this light. To operate them, from if you're right-handed and you're using your support hand thumb like you do for operation, it's not too bad. You can either push in on this bar or you can push forward on the bar as well. So that in theory is pretty nice, and actually in application is pretty nice too. And also same operation on the other side if you're left-handed, so it is completely ambidextrous with the same functions on your right switch and your left switch. But let's go a little bit deeper here. So it does have momentary and constant on, so if you want to use it one-handed, you can just tap it for full on, tap it to shut it off, but you can also do momentary, so you press it in, and then once you release it, it turns off. So I think that's just if you press it in for like over half a second and let go, then it'll shut off. You just tap it and it stays on. Pretty much identical function to the APLs. Tap it, turn it off, momentary, which also is the same for the Olights. Tap it or long press it, which, you know, it's fairly intuitive, it's fairly simple. Most lights are going that way. The XC1 original was a big fail, but the XC1B now does have the same operation as the Olight, which is nice. So all of these lights work in similar fashions, though like I've talked about in videos before, my personal favorite is how the TLR1 switches are. My TLR1 has my absolute favorite switches of any light out there. It's beautiful. But these ones are pretty good on the Olight as well as the XC1, where you just tap down. It's nice. It's easy to get to. You could do this all day. My thumb would never hurt. It would never, you know, if you're running a low light course and you're activating your light all the time, you'd be good to go. Also easy to reach, easy operation with one hand as well. I also like pushing down. Well, I'm not gonna get into why I like this one better, but I like it better. I don't like pushing in because as you push in, you're pushing your muzzle away. This does have forward press, which kind of isn't as bad as pushing in my opinion, but still I would rather just push down with the thumb or down with the finger. The problem for me is the activation is this little thin ridge, and I kind of get why they did it. It's so that you can press in on it, which is good, and you can also press forward on it. So you can press forward on it and that activates it. And that's cool, and it's a good theory, and it's kind of new, and it's kind of, I don't know, revolutionary in a sense. So the controls are really pretty good, but the thing about this light is we have this kind of wasted space here. I'm gonna call it wasted space because most of your lights, the controls extend into this area. These ones stop at the trigger guard. What that means is this light had the room to put on TLR1 switches, to put on TLR3 switches. These switches are my favorite. They're the favorite of a lot of users. A lot of people love these. Some people prefer the paddles. Some people like the paddles on the Inforce that you press in. They're big, they're easy to activate. I get it. But this little, small, kind of sharp little activation is just, it's not my favorite. Again, can I do it? Yes. Do I understand it? Yes. Is it relatively intuitive? Yes. But the area you have to hit is much smaller and it's further forward. Now this doesn't affect you as much doing one-handed stuff because your thumb is kind of right there, though your target is basically this little ridge versus something like the APLc, which you have this whole paddle to hit, which is textured. It's easy. If you don't hit it in the right place, you know, you hit it over here, you're gonna turn it on over here, whatever. This, you do have to be a little more precise because it's this thin bar. Oh, that's okay, that's not the end of the world. But what comes into play for me is now this is so far forward. We have something like this in a normal grip. My medium-sized man hands can reach this, no problem. If you had hands that were a little bit smaller than mine, you could still reach it, pretty much no problem. If your hands were way smaller, you'd probably have a little bit of an issue getting to this one-handed. But this gun, this is my medium-sized men's hands. I wear a size large, like in gloves, like a mechanic's glove, I wear a size large for reference. This, my normal grip, I can barely reach it. I kind of really have to focus, I really have to be precise. If I wanted like more 100% activation, I would almost have to break my grip a little bit in order to really get in here. I do have some friends with bigger hands and they were able to activate this with no problem really. So if you have bigger hands, shouldn't really be an issue. But if you have men's size large or smaller hands, this may prove to be an issue for you. So for you bigger handed guys, not an issue. For you smaller handed people out there, will be an issue. I kind of fall right in the zone where I can use it, but I really got to think about that activation with one hand. So the controls, are they the worst out there? I honestly, in my opinion, they might be. Are they way worse? No, not really. Are they unusable? No, not at all. Like the XC1, where you basically could not have constant on. I mean, you can because you push this little bar through, but you can't have a realistically easy constant on, especially if you're just using it one-handed. So the controls on the original XC1 were kind of a fail, kind of a deal breaker. The XC1B does fix that. So are these switches a deal breaker like the XC1 was? No, I don't think they're a deal breaker, but I'm hoping they'll do something to change that. That is gonna bring us to my final topic, which is undocumented. You're not gonna be able to see or read anything about this aspect, I don't believe, because I actually got it kind of behind the scenes. I talked to one of the engineers over there at Streamlight, actually. I won't say who they are. I don't think they would get in trouble for talking to me about this, but I won't say who they are in case they will. But they are talking about modularity aspects of this light. Now, I don't think they have anything planned, or at least they didn't tell me anything, but the idea is that this light will be modular. He didn't exactly tell me how or anything, but I'm guessing in the back here, this little back piece is kind of separate from the rest, and it's attached by these 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3 down here at the bottom. My guess, and this is just a guess, so don't quote me on this, is that you can take those off, remove this back piece, and put on a different modular piece on the back here. What's that gonna look like? I don't really know. Maybe they're gonna allow, different switches to be put on here or something like that. But what I am hoping for, and if there's enough people like me out there that think these switches are not awesome, my hope is that you'll be able to remove this rear section, take that off, because this section is what has these switches. Remove this rear section and replace it with the rear section that now has these paddles that are extended, and it will turn the TLR7, which is an awesome light all around, #1 in every department except for the switches, in my opinion. Will turn a #1 light that is kind of not ruined, but loses a lot of points in the switch department for me. If we could put the TLR1 switches or the TLR3 switches, these controls, onto the TLR7, I would be able to say this is my favorite light, hands down. No questions asked for concealed carry. This would be what I would recommend to everybody. So, crossing my fingers that that may be an option one day, though again, this is entirely speculative. They haven't announced anything. They haven't said anything. There's nothing I know behind the scenes. I'm just hoping that you may be able to remove this portion and pop on a switch portion, which would be awesome. All right, I'll leave you with holsters. People are gonna ask, are these gonna have holsters made for them? The design of this light is a little bit tricky. It's not as streamlined and easy as the XC1 or the APLC. There's a little more complex lines. Now, for people that are just gonna do foam pressers of the actual light, that's not really an issue. But for people like me, that I have my brother actually take a bunch of measurements and design this in CAD, there's a lot of interesting facets of this light that make it a little bit trickier to make holsters for in that regard, as well as the tolerances in here are pretty tight for retention points. So a friction fit holster would work all right, but you even have things like, I don't know if you can see, these paddles right here stick up just a little bit higher than the rest, but you don't want a retention on these paddles because you may inadvertently turn on the light in your holster or something. So the retention points for a holster will be a little bit tricky, but we're gonna get it done. I'm telling you right now, I am gonna make holsters for this light. The light's not even out yet, but I am already under development for holsters. My holsters, which a lot of people are big fans of, myself included, obviously. If you're interested in info on those, check the video description below. Guys, that about wraps it up for this kind of initial thoughts, initial impressions, overview type video. I talked about all the stuff that I would want to watch in a video review of this, though if there's other things that I didn't cover that you have questions about, feel free to ask me below. I am planning on doing an updated video on this once I've had some more time with it, but I'm about to head out to SHOT Show, so I didn't know when I would get a chance to do this video, and it's a hot requested item, so I figured I would at least drop this video on it. I think that's it. Again, feel free to ask me questions below. That way I can answer them in the comments if I have time, or I can at least throw that type of information into a bigger, longer, more detailed review that I do plan on doing down the road. All right, guys, that's it. Hope you're well. Take care.